I make 130k a year as a DevOps engineer, but when I finished uni with two engineering degrees, right, a master's and a bachelor's, I also applied to over 200 jobs and got nothing. No graduate scheme, just rejection, right? So I said screw it, and I taught myself DevOps from scratch. In this video, I'm showing you exactly how I went from 0k to 40k to earning over 130k and the steps I take if I had to do it all again today. Let me set the story or my journey, right? I went uni like any other Londoner or person would normally do after they go college and school, right? 4 years of engineering. I did mechanical engineering, bachelor's and a master's, thinking, oh, I would get a job after this. I'm qualified. No, right? I applied for 200 plus jobs and thinking I would get at least one, zero, nothing. So you can imagine after you graduated, you look for jobs, and most people nowadays are like this in this situation. Sadly, they're frustrated, they're stressed out. What do I do from here? Your parents are waiting for you to get a job, support them, and So I wasn't sure where to go. So I did research, looked at Reddit, YouTube, different boot camps, talked to family and friends, and I came across something called Cloud back then, Cloud on DevOps, right? I wasn't sure what it was, and I started with AWS mainly. I did the first cert, the CCP cert. That took me a month. Then I did the SAA, the Solution Architect cert. Took me a month. And I kept doing certs thinking this would be the way to get a job. And I had no support, no mentor, no guide, no roadmap, nothing. Just went with whatever I thought felt right. Then I made my CV look really good. And 6 months later, I got a job, right? And back then, it was much easier to get a job. Now it's much more harder. But there are still ways to do it, right? Now, first job was a 40k paying job in London. And you can imagine, I had the phone call, Ab was next to me. I was like, oh wow, 40k. I'm like amazed, right? And that is really good for someone who's like 21, 22 at that time. Getting a 40k salary. Amazing, right? I had no clue what I was doing. Stayed there 6 months and then I jumped again. I did a lateral move. I was a cloud architect. I went to a DevOps engineer. I got 55k. And I stayed there for again a few months later, and it was a startup. I didn't really like it, and I'll explain why I did these jumps later on. And after a few months, I kind of took a drop to 47k, right? Took a slight pay cut. So from 40k 55k to 47k. Okay. Now I stayed there for a year this time to learn and get grounded. I was actually learning quite a bit, and you can imagine while here, I'm experimenting with different things in my career. And one thing people always told me is don't jump around too early. But I ignored it. I was experimenting. I was testing what felt right. And one thing I always told people is you have no loyalty to your employer. Your loyalty is to your family, your growth, your friends, and your future. That's it. Now, I'm not saying to jump roles, but what I'm saying is to focus on yourself and growth, right? If a place is not right for you and you're not really learning, leave, right? And there's two things you should have in a role: good learning and a salary. If you're not getting both, I don't know what you're doing there, right? You need to leave. If you're getting both, amazing. Stay there for as long as you can, right? Now, if you're getting a salary only and not learning, then I'll say spend some time outside of work learning, because you're getting paid good money, right? Spend outside 9 to 5 to doing projects and getting better at what you want to do. And the other way, if you're getting good learning and salary, I'll say stay there for maybe 1-2 years. And after you're grounded, you have your learning done, your benefits the most, pack your bags, right? So I kept doing this. And then I got a call from LinkedIn, or I got a message from LinkedIn from a recruiter for a role at Trainline. And I realized I had a friend that was working there, AJ, and thanks to him, big shout out to him. The LinkedIn, I'll put it in the chat. He referred me for a role at Trainline. I stayed there for 2 years. I learned quite a bit there, a lot, right? They work at high scale. You can imagine selling tickets at big scale, loads of customers, 100 millions of traffic, right? Made good friends there, and I was getting paid quite good, around 75k, right? Good learning, good salary. That's what I mean. Stayed there for a bit of time, right? And then not long after that, I got headhunted, and again I got referred for a role which offered 100k. That was my first 100k offer, right? And after 6-7 months, unfortunately, our team was made redundant. And then straight after that, I was looking for a job. Maybe took me a few weeks to a month. While looking for roles, I got offered a role close to 120k, a bit more than that, but yeah. And while all this was happening, I focused hard on personal development and reading more, learning faster, and just saying no to any distractions, right? And yes, at that stage, I was selfish. I had to be. Now, there's a quote that I love, right? You can't pour from an empty cup, right? Fill yours first, then overflow into others. Now, there's not many expectations when you're young. Take those risks, right? As you get older, you won't get this time and opportunity. Because the goal is when you're young, focus on yourself, and yes, please be selfish. 5 years later, think about giving back to community. And this is exactly what me and my bro Abs have done. Now, here's what I learned from all of this and what I do differently if I start today. Some lessons I want to share that are very important is every move you get between the jobs should be either money, growth, or some sort of freedom, right? Preferably two of the three if you can't get, right? If you're not learning, leave. If you're underpaid, negotiate or bounce, or even stay there for 1-2 years and look to leave, right? If you're boxed in, you're just stalling, you're wasting time. Number two, yes, CVs are good, but relationships and connecting with people is very, very important. I got my biggest roles through referrals. So AJ Trainline, the 100K role from someone else. Now, don't just apply on LinkedIn. Make sure you connect with people, reach out to them, and get that personal relationship. That takes you really far. Number three, ignore advice, or take it with a pinch of salt. Anything that doesn't suit your path, right? Everyone's screaming, stay there 2 years minimum 3 years. But what if that role is trash and you're really dying inside, right? Jump, grow, move, do what you have to do. Look after yourself, be selfish. Number four, focus on becoming valuable, right? Not just doing any task. Now, I stopped chasing job titles. There's cloud engineer, infra engineer, platform engineer. There's so many, different titles. It doesn't matter. Start solving those problems on tools you want to do, right? Building infrastructure, owning systems. That's when more money, starts following, right? And fifth, not least, is certs don't really get you paid. Projects do, right? People, employees, they want to see those hands-on projects. Certs is not enough, trust me. Maybe back then it was, but now it isn't. Now, 6-7 years ago, I had no clue what DevOps was or even what it meant. Now I teach this stuff, I mentor others, and me and my bro Abs have built a whole DevOps community. Now is massive, over 4,000 people, right? And we help others to make the same jump. And if I can do it, or if we can do it, anyone can. So if you're in this journey, please hit a like, support us, drop your story in the comments, and please do subscribe. I make videos for people like us where they're saying, just the truth, the facts, and tech. Let's do it together.